Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Myth and Meaning, the series in which the hosts, myself, Owl, and
Brock.
talk about the mythological significance of fictional works. In this episode, we are talking about Dragon Ball in episode 6, which is the Blind King Muten Roshi. I'm your host on the left, Owl.
I'm your host on the right, Brock.
And in this episode, it looks like we're going to be talking about some very mythological and meaningful aspects of the story.
Absolutely. What do you think about this image that I chose in reference to this episode?
I think this is the spite that Bluma feels and the bargain that she's willing to take at the end is Cain there, where Goku has made the proper sacrifices and can continue on the way of Tao.
I think the same thing. I think that there's a sort of a synthesis of ideas from the biblical stories, right? So we talked a little bit before about Adam and Eve and the introduction of the idea of evil and malice to the man in stasis or in a relationship with God, right? And these ideas in the biblical stories have a very logical sort of sequential nature to them. So we're going to explore those ideas really quickly as we get through this season, and they're going to keep applying to the same characters. And we've even mentioned Christ and Adam at the same time talking about Goku. And the reason for that is that they kind of are the same archetype, but more fleshed out and more understood. And so those ideas are going to come through clearer. And so we can talk about like Bulma and Goku is Cain and Abel. It's not a one-to-one, but the ideas in the story of Cain and Abel come through in this episode.
And that's actually what makes the mythological is those discussions of ideas that are universal to the human experience.
Yeah, the ideas that underlie religious, you could say.
Very much so. And so we start off by learning that Goku has been able. He has made the proper sacrifices to God in order to receive the reward. And the reward is not... It's so great that the reward is not something that is material. It's not gold. It's not whatever you wish. It's that you can go wherever you want to go.
Yeah, I have a note here that the payoff of the sacrifice, which is carrying sea turtle to the sea, is the Nimbus, which is the way that you can traverse that place that you just went, right? It's almost like if you carry with you the conscience as you traverse the land, then you will receive something that can carry you across the land with ease, almost like an angel.
And not only that, I think, too, that the ability to go where you want, the freedom to go where you want, is only attained once you've subordinated yourself to a greater idea.
Yeah, I think that's really significant for this. You know, and especially why Bulma can't ride the Nimbus, right?
Right. And real quick, though, I do want to talk about this mysterious bald man.
Wait, who's that?
Who's that? Looks like the Muten Roshi.
I'd like to talk while we have this shot up of him about his design. So I had a bit of an epiphany in our Get the Mic episode talking about this, because I had never thought that much about his design and how significant it was, right?
You think he's just a kooky old coot?
Well, you know, he likes women. That's what I knew. But there are some really cool things about his design you told me. I think that you could probably put it clearer than I could.
Right. Those being, first of all, he has the staff of sages, right? The exemplar of the wisdom of the past that's actually made of an ancient material, wood. He also has the letters on his shirt which are in the right combination magic words that he wears on his person. He has a Dragon Ball, the rounded chaos, around his neck. He's old, bald, sure. He has a turtle shell, which corresponds with the divine nature of turtle, signifying that he is a disciple of the divine. And last but not least, his glasses that signify his permanence in the role of the blind king. And we're going to see throughout Dragon Ball much of the issue is caused because of the blindness of characters.
Absolutely. I mean, and there's this idea, there's a biblical and mythological idea of the blind father, and then it carries over into Egyptian mythology with the blind king. And you can even take it back as far as the earliest mythology that we can even conceptualize, right? With Marduk, right? What differentiates Marduk from his predecessors?
Is that he can see all around him.
That he's not blind.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something that it just went right over my head whenever I was younger watching Dragon Ball, that there could be anything to do with Roshi, beyond what he does, what his character does, right? Specifically what his character does.
And it was something I started to pick apart. It was actually something one of the initial draws I thought about, because I was reading about the story of Osiris and Horus, and I was thinking about vision while I was exercising when I watched Dragon Ball, because I love to watch Dragon Ball when I exercise.
Why would you not?
It's like the best thing to watch.
Absolutely.
And so I was reading about that, and I was working out for the day, and I was just thinking, man, this vision and Master Roshi's vision, his vices that he succumbs to, it's kind of all adding up.
Oh, it adds up so many different ways.
And so we see here that he is the blind king, and he is exiled right now from society.
Right. And in Egyptian mythology, Set has fooled Osiris into getting into a box, which he then shut, sealed with lead, and then threw into the Nile. So where is Roshi? Well, he's on an island out in the middle of the water, secluded as a hermit, wearing a turtle shell, right? So that, in and of itself, seems to me to be a representation of that same idea, the mythological idea in the Egyptian mythology, right?
It's definitely the cause of the world that needs repair. It's the call to the hero, right? If there's no need for the world to have heroes, then heroes won't be called upon. But the fact that the blind king is separated from the world is a big step in this season that we're going to see how it transpires later. We only see the first interactions here in this episode.
Right, and that is also why I had mentioned before that there's an alchemical representation of the idea of what can be extracted from the fish to bring the sight back to the father. I think that some of those ideas are being put together here with the sight of Roshi, and the reason that is Goku specifically, who can bring the fish to the surface, that and his
but it's not just Goku.
His interface with the conscience.
It's not just Goku.
That is the original
We're gonna get
impetus
to it.
for him to start coming back.
To come back is not Goku alone. We're
Right.
going to talk about what else it has to be and how them together are the fish.
Oh, I can't wait for that. We haven't gotten there yet. And
We'll get
the
there.
mic.
We haven't, because it's deeper. It just every time I think about it, it's just like deeper and deeper. And I told you, Dragon Ball. I've tried to tell you.
This is why you've got to subscribe.
Please subscribe, because we just get further into it. And if you like Dragon Ball, if you like thinking about Dragon Ball, I don't know anywhere else where you can get this content, because
No,
if
I've
it was
never
being
heard any of
made,
this.
I don't think we would be doing this show.
But
And-
anyway, I kind of wanted to gush about it a little bit, because it ties into religion and alchemy and psychology and philosophy. It all seems to intersect here on these ideas, around Roshi and Goku and the turtle.
Particularly in a context in which the author was trying to remake culture.
That's important too. We talked about
It's
that
huge.
in our first episode.
It's huge. Please refer to our first episode for that. But let's go ahead and continue. So here we have Goku on the path. And I put this poem here. The road goes ever on and on, down from the door where it began. Now far ahead the road has gone, and I must follow if I can, pursuing it with eager feet, until it joins some larger way, where many paths and errands meet, and whither then I cannot say.
Now I have a note here that says that Tao means a road, path, or a way, or can be interpreted as the way in which one does something, the method or doctrine or principle, or the way of heaven.
It is. That the Nimbus is the way of heaven.
Absolutely. It's the heavenly way, you could say.
And so I love this poem from Tolkien, particularly because it's just that Japanese and Britishness, it just like echoes each other, and it's so strange. They're two island nations, almost an entire world apart, but there's just some uniqueness and similarity.
A
in what
universal,
they've created.
you could even say archetypal nature to the way that they're seeing the world, right?
Right, and this is exactly it. Goku doesn't travel on the Nimbus to get to a specific place in the beginning. Really, he is pursuing his path with eager feet because he's going with Bulma, not on any particular way of his own. And he finds his path in that own process.
Right, he finds
It's
his
in the
path
process.
by respecting the path.
Exactly.
And then I also have here a note, day, in the Taoist or Taoist philosophy, it says day is power or virtue or integrity or the combination of the three. I think that the combination of the three is really succinct there. And it's the proper adherence to the Tao, right? The day is the way that you adhere yourself to the path. And that is the closest thing that I've found so far to represent what Goku is in the story.
Dayman.
Oh, man.
And so then we have this. The very next thing that we see is our corrupt bargain.
Now, here's the inverse of this. See, Goku...
The Nightman.
Well, you could look at Cain and Abel that way, as the day man and the night man. Or as the yin and the yang, right? But there's something really interesting about that, because there's a dichotomy to everything here. There's a respect to the duality of things. That on the one hand, you have Goku, who has respected the voice of God, who has carried the weight of the conscience, who has reaped the benefit from traveling with the conscience. And then you have Bulma, right, who has not earned it. Specifically, I think for this story, the reason that she has acted the way she has is to show what it means not to earn it, right?
It's also poignant to point out the context in which she's presented her reward. Goku was presented his reward with genuine forthrightness. Instantly in this picture in the top left-hand corner, you can see it is not genuine. What am I thinking of?
Well, I think this is a good way to introduce why it is that Roshi's the blind king and not just the wise master, right?
Yes. He's both.
Because Mr. Miyagi would not do this, right?
Right, but Mr. Miyagi only had one. I mean, you don't think about Mr. Miyagi really in 3 or anything like that. Like, he had his arc.
No, I just mean it's the archetype.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because there's a wholly positive nature to the archetype of the wise old man or the master. Roshi is not that. Roshi is much more complex than that. He ties into another realm of mythology, right?
Exactly.
That approaches the negative aspects as well. And we can see that with him here, where he is a temptation to Bulma. He is to say, oh, well, you have not earned the thing that you want, right? See, Goku didn't do this to get a Dragon Ball. He's along for the path, and he earns the path. Bulma wants a Dragon Ball, but she hasn't earned the Dragon Ball. If she had taken on the weight of the conscience or had carried Turtle, then he would just give her the Dragon Ball. But she did not, right? She didn't respect it.
But she gave him salt water.
So
She even brings that up.
Don't
forget.
Well, Bulma being the feminine.
That's what sparks this. And yeah, you're right. It's the duality that Roshi can be the wise master and the blind king simultaneously, and his blindness to his lechery. And I also think, though, it's poignant to say that he sees her in this.
Well, he recognizes things about her that, let's say, the simple archetype of the wise old man wouldn't have a place to recognize, right? And so the situation wouldn't really exist.
So you're saying that
just like the Karate Kid.
But that's the thing. I think so many other lecherous old men characters do this incorrectly because they don't fully flesh out those two ideas. Well, Roshi inspired so many other characters because of his duality and mythology within his character. And here, he sees through Bulma, and because of the already admittance or already, what am I looking for? The surrendering of her modesty already happening, he's able to see all her vulnerabilities.
Right. What he sees as the wise old man and, the blind king, but, we're talking about the blind king seeing. What he sees as the wise old man fully encompassed here is that she does not hold herself in the highest regard. She doesn't carry herself lightly now. Why is that? Well, that's because she's seen the way that Goku is, and she can no longer respect herself in that way. So the reflection of herself from herself does not meet his standard of what a good person would be.
Right, and so it must be a corrupt bargain how she gets the reward. It's also funny you say reflective because Roshi's head there is pretty reflective.
He's very reflective.
Yeah, and that's
literally got rays shining off of it.
Yes, and that's why it's mythological. And so then we see at the end, finally, she realizes what she's done.
Right, so she gives in to the corrupt bargain. She says, okay, well, it matters more to me that I get my ends, right? The means don't matter, right? I want my boyfriend.
And I'll give up my integrity to do it.
Right, I will reveal myself as such to you so that you'll just give me what I want. When she reveals herself, she sees that she no longer has the modesty that she thought she had, right? She doesn't have the protection from her own scrutiny that she thought she had, right? Because again, this is reflection. He's a reflection for her. So by showing herself to him, she sees herself through him and realizes that she no longer has the modesty that she thought she had. And she's angry at Goku, right? Which is the wrong response.
And we see her fatal flaw actually echo throughout the series.
Right. Her character, for a while at least, revolves around that idea. This idea here that we're talking about, which is, why would she be mad at Goku? Well, Goku took her panties. Goku took her modesty from her, or her claim to modesty, right? She's always had her modesty. The idea more revolves around the fact that her encounter with Goku has taken away from her an ignorance, and she, as an egoistic entity,
an ignorance
blames
that's
him.
Only been able to be there because it hasn't interacted with the mastery of the natural world due to her societal protections. So once she's inherited, that is what Goku is when she interacts with it, and that's why it's removed when she interacts with Goku.
Well, she's inherited a lot, right? And then she meets Goku, and she's like, I'll take that 4-star ball for my dream, right? So she has come into contact with the idea that Goku has that comes with the mastery of the natural world, right? But she doesn't want to square the idea that comes with that, right? The humility that comes with that.
But she knows that that's the path that she should take, and it makes her vulnerable by choosing to not go down that path.
And that's why she is where she is here.
And so, being mad at Goku, she's actually just mad at herself. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is episode 6, which is the Muten Roshi.
The Blind King.
The Blind King. Hope you enjoyed what you saw. I'm your host on the left, Owl.
I'm your host on the right, Brock.
And we'll see you guys next time.